Welcome back to another episode of FinCrime&Me. Today, I have someone who has such a great personality that listening to his stories, you just want him to continue going on and on and on. And as much as I can talk quite a bit, if you know me, you know I can talk for days. Ashu Sharma can definitely tell such great stories and also keep you engaged. Even if he thinks it's a boring topic, I can genuinely say it's not. Ashu, welcome to the episode and my podcast today. I'm so excited to have you, firstly because you do have a great personality, you're a great storyteller, and you actually know how to keep an audience engaged. And that's a key skill I always find, especially when you are talking about topics that might not be so glamorous. And especially in the fin crime world, corporate investigations isn't something that is seen as a, topic of choice or something that everyone, in essence, goes towards. So I think the best way to start this is finding out your journey, because your journey has been quite similar to mine, but in a different time scale. So I worked in HSBC, went to NFIB at City of London Police, then continued my journey at City of London Police, then went back to private. But you did it in a different way. And you've also worked at NFIB and you've also worked at HSBC. So let's start with your story.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to try and see if I don't do one-word answers to make it as engaging as possible. But yeah, so my journey is an interesting one. Firstly, I think everyone has worked in HSBC at some point in their lives. I think that's a reality that we find. But for me, my journey started when I was studying law, actually. So, which I didn't expect to study. I wanted to study. Actually, I didn't know what I wanted to study. I wanted to do something creative, and I ended up doing accounting because that's what Asian families expect their kids to do. But I actually then transitioned into law. But I actually was interested in justice and really finding justice for people. And it sounds a bit hokey, but I was really interested in being the voice for people who didn't have one. And for someone who was like 19, 20, and to have that, I was a bit mad. But it was something that I was very keen on. Racism was something that I was really, that was my thing. That was I need to stop this. And I used to go to the marches and do all the things. I did some volunteering work with Uni called Ealing Ration Council at the time. And racism was pretty much on the rise at that time. So that was my focus, my dissertations and everything. My goal was to become a prosecutor and then, fight the good fight. When I joined the Crown Prosecution Service, to kind of really begin that journey to become a prosecutor, I realized that law is really boring. And the simple truth is that you have solicitors and you have barristers, and things will have changed. But at that time, the solicitors did the paperwork and the barristers did the sexy work. They wore the wigs. They went into the courtroom. And it was a running joke. If they won the case, then it was them in front of the cameras. If they lost the case, it was normally the solicitor in front of the camera.
Always.
But for a prosecutor, when I was making the cases, I was really interested in the investigation. And I thought to myself, that's really what I wanted to do. But corporate investigation wasn't really a profession back then. I know, I only look 21. But back in those days, it wasn't really a profession. Everyone kind of just did it. You had auditors doing it. You had other people doing it. Sometimes they went to lawyers, but it wasn't really a profession that you can go into. So I had a choice between the police or going into government. I kind of thought to myself, you need to be a very special person to be a police officer. And for me, the fast track was there, open for me, but I didn't felt I had those qualities. But I wanted to continue with investigation. So then I went into the public sector and ended up doing different elements of investigation at a time when investigation was evolving also in the public sector as well as the private sector. And that was a real learning curve for me to try and understand what is an investigator. What are the skill set? And you're young, so you're still learning, and you learn those skills as you go along.
And everything is fun then as well.
Everything's fun then, everything really is fun. But, also then understanding how difficult it is. We didn't have the technology you have now. So It was old school, and internet was slow if you had it. Emails were, if you're lucky to have emails, it was normally a shared email box, so everything was slow.
You're showing your age, Ashu.
I know, allegedly. Our telephones were 2 cups of a string. But I think the reality is that, you had to learn, do the hard graft and understand how it worked. Yeah. And I think for me, having mentors and people to support me on that journey, and for me to learn and for them to learn in the same process as technology evolved, was a really good journey before I transitioned into the private sector.
Yeah. How was your shift from public to private sector? Because sometimes, and especially if anyone has seen my previous episodes, we all have different experiences. Sometimes it's hard to navigate in the private sector, and sometimes it's also hard personality-wise. So how was the transition for you?
It was an interesting one. So for me, I was in the serious fraud office. I was investigating serious and complex financial crime. The SFO, just like every other agency, has budget restrictions.
Of course.
The pressures are strong. And I kind of realized when I was doing those cases, the same mistakes that were being made in corporates. So if a bank was a victim to a fraud, you would see the same mistakes internally. And you think, why are they making those mistakes? And that's really going to hurt the case as well, because, if the controls aren't there and you've allowed that fraud to happen, then, it's really hard to paint yourself as a victim.
Yeah.
And so when I made that transition to the private sector, I didn't really know what to expect. But you got to understand the purposes of the two as well. And that's when I realized pretty much first on, because in the public sector, especially in law enforcement, your goal is justice. Yeah. Your goal is to get justice for people who have been wronged. That's your focus. Success is measured by the prosecution.
Yeah.
Success is also measured by financial crime coming down.
Yeah.
No one's going to thank you.
No.
The public's not going to thank you. The press are always going to hate you.
Yeah.
Serious fraud office at the time was called the serious farce office.
Yeah.
And the FBI used to call us the serious farce office, and we used to refer to them as the Federal Bureau of Idiots. But that's the games we used to play. But the reality is that it's a hard job. Your salaries are low, your hours are long.
Yeah.
And
with
the
a
goal,
lot of responsibility.
A lot of responsibility.
Well. Yeah.
So you go in this knowing that you're doing it for the public good. That is why you do it. You don't do it for any other reason. If you're doing it because it's the only job I managed to get, you'll be found out very quickly.
Yeah.
And this common thought that, public sector come in at 10, they leave at 4. It's not true. They
come in more hours in the public
sector. That's it. You do so many hours. You work really long. I remember coming in sometimes at 7 and leaving at 8, 9 o'clock at night, and then still not conscious of, oh my God, I got more, especially disclosure time when you've got a trial on.
Yeah.
So it's a hard graft. When you come to the private sector, though, it's different. Yeah. The goal isn't, the justice element.
No.
The goal is the shareholder value.
Yeah.
The goal is...
Save the company money.
Save the company money. The goal is, I don't want to get a fine by the regulator.
Yeah.
And quite often, the goal is the regulator is on me and I need to do something to mitigate. And in the public sector, the plan is to get that conviction, and then that's it. Then you got your conviction, you walk away.
Yeah.
In the private sector, it isn't. The private sector, you are often responding to law enforcement or you're responding to the insider threats you're dealing with. Yeah. But then the goal is to solve the case, but then remediate those risks. So what are the risks? What are the controls that failed? Ensure that there's remediation of that. Who's responsible for the remediation element of it? The investigation team won't be. So who do we pass that to? Is that being measured? And then how do we then align ourselves with all the jurisdictional difficulties that happen around the world? Luckily, we have a bigger budget than the public sector, although we will always complain about our resources and our budgets.
Always.
Salaries are a lot better as well.
Yeah.
But there is a shift, and that is an interesting shift from public to private sector. And the key element is return on investment.
Yeah.
That is the key when you go into the private sector. And that's something you have to learn when you move from public sector to private sector. They're expecting return on investment. And everyone will tell you compliance is a cost center. It makes no money. It costs a lot of money. But it doesn't mean we don't have return on investment.
Yeah.
And so trying to figure that one out is a real challenge.
How was working in the corporate environment, though, as people, as team-wise? Because I've always found in the public sector there's more camaraderie. Don't always get that in the private side.
It really depends on where you are. So I had an interesting one because my first position when I joined private sector was in India.
Oh, okay.
The role was in India.
Yeah.
So I was heading up the fraud risk team, fraud investigation team. Day one was in India. So I now had to move to another country, understand that business.
Yeah.
And I was looking after fraud risk investigation of 9 countries, but the headquarter of that particular business was in India. Wow. And so for me, that challenge was a very unique challenge. You're right. In the public sector, in law enforcement, a lot of jokes. A lot of ribbing of each other, a lot of teasing. Mm-hmm. That's how you kind of get through the day through humor and sometimes dark humor.
Yeah.
But you're in India, that humor is not going to work anymore. No. You have to be straight.
It's a different personality.
Well. Yeah. And also I was working in Hyderabad, so in that city, people are different to say Delhi or Mumbai or Bangalore or Chennai or any of those other places.
Yeah.
So really you have to understand that element of it. Hierarchy means something a lot in Asia.
Very much.
Whereas in the UK, not so much. Even in law enforcement, to a certain extent.
There is obviously ranks.
Yeah.
But you can still joke around.
You can still joke around.
Over there it's taken very seriously. Your rank is it's what you are. It's kind of like a personality.
Correct, exactly.
Yeah.
And over there, you're very much sir. Everyone will refer to you as sir. Yeah. And to break that down, I'll give you an example. I would come in, I'm by myself. I come in and I'd start at about 8 in the morning, and then I would sometimes work late because I was by myself. I'm not going home to anyone.
Yeah.
And so I would work late, and then I'd see that my team were also working really late. And I kind of said to one of my reports, it was Friday, and it was 8 o'clock. And I was like, look, I'm the sad one because I'm here on a Friday evening, but you don't have to be.
Yeah.
And he said, no, I can't leave until you leave.
Yeah.
And it was this view that until the boss goes, we cannot go.
Leave.
Yeah. And I was like, no, 5 o'clock, you go.
You can still go.
Yeah. You can go 4 as well if you want. It's a Friday. I have no life. But you have a family and life, and it's a Friday. Go.
Go out.
Go. Whereas when I came back to London, people were at the door at 4 o'clock. So I think,
it's very true.
it's a different mindset.
Yeah.
And that was a real cultural shift. But I think beyond that, though, one thing that I really appreciated about the private sector is the fact that you're allowed to be creative. You're allowed to be strategic in your thinking, which you're not in the public sector. It's very much a government public sector role. There are things we need to follow.
They tell you to stay within your
lane, stay within your zone. Yeah. Exactly. Whereas in the private sector, you get that opportunity to cook, really. And that is something I really did appreciate. And that helps you in that journey. And the other thing is, for anyone doing that shift, don't assume that you're not the smartest person in the room. Mm-hmm. Because there is this view that in the public sector, I go to the private sector, oh my God, they're all going to be amazingly super smart. Yeah. And I'm going to be like a complete dummy. Yeah. And believe me, once you know the jargon, you know, you're all equals.
Yeah.
So don't be intimidated by that.
That's true.
It's
funny that you say the jargon, because sometimes I notice some people just use buzzwords in most of my private meetings. And sometimes you think, okay, what are we actually saying? And I think that sometimes helps with the public-private shift as well, is that you can just cut through the crap, if that makes sense. Someone can, use the jargon, use the buzzwords, but at the end of the day, you just want to know the answer, and you can kind of decipher that instead of us continuing using the same jargon as well. Yeah,
I think so. But I think you can get so lost in jargon. I remember being in a meeting, one of the first meetings there, and there was so much jargon, and then someone literally went lol. And I started thinking, lol, line of something. And I was like, oh, because I just got caught up with this, this whole jargon thing.
Yeah. And abbreviations for everything.
For everything, And so I've always made a play. Whenever I get to a team, don't assume that we all know the jargon. Because believe me, I met someone who'd been in the business 6 years and had no clue what one abbreviation was. Yeah. And then I had to tell them it means this. Yeah. Oh, I felt like I'd be a dummy if I asked anyone. I don't want to ask, right? Because I'll look really silly. Yeah. And I was like, you look silly for not asking.
I'm still that way. Yeah. I don't think I know I learn something new every day. I think there was another abbreviation. And I think it sometimes depends on context as well, where what are we actually going for in this abbreviation today, because it meant something different last week.
I think you have to. I mean, I'm an investigator. I'm always going to ask.
Don't be afraid to ask.
Don't be afraid to ask. And don't, when you ask, don't say, this is going to be a silly question.
Yeah.
Or don't say that.
Yeah.
Just say, actually, guys, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Own it. And they'll tell you.
Yeah. Also, 9 out of 10 times someone else is thinking it, but they don't want to say it.
They don't want to say it. They don't want to say it. So I think just be the person that asks that question. It doesn't mean that, every meeting now say, shoot me, what's that jargon? But I think the key is that you'll get into it then. And especially when you're new in the role or new in the function, just ask someone, okay, look, I'm seeing loads of letters here that don't make words. So can you tell me what words they're making up? Because I have no clue, and it'll just help me. And then get a little spreadsheet out, make a little schedule, and then you're good to go.
Of all the abbreviations.
Of all the abbreviations.
And maybe even some Gen Z slang as well, because I'm starting to learn all of that as well.
I mean,
Not to show my age, but...
No, I don't think anyone's going to use Sigma or skibbity or whatever those words are in a meeting, but maybe someone will. Who knows?
Maybe someone will if they don't agree with one of your ideas.
Yeah.
If anyone on Ashu's team is listening, please start using some Gen Z slang.
No, please don't. Please don't.
So, you are Chief of Strategy at ACI, which is Associate of Corporate Investigators. How did you go into that? And is this your baby? Is it your project? And is it something due to passion?
Yeah, so this is a group of investigators, Steve Young, the CEO of the association, the anchor of it all, Basha Galvin, CEO, Simon Scales. These are all amazing folk who kind of set this up. And with Kate Winter, who just kind of manages our events. And I guess the principle and ideals behind it, investigators like to complain. And one of the things we used to complain about, and we still do, is that why are these events still happening? Why are these incidents still happening? Why is it that with all these teams and all these controls and supposed risk assessments and the rest of it, there's still investigations, and it's the same old mistakes time and time again.
Right.
And when you start looking at what's around, and certainly when I was in public sector and I wanted to be accredited, I wanted to find some accreditation. And at the time, it was either lawyer or accountant. And I said, well, both of them don't serve my needs. What's out there? And you found there was something for fraud, or something for money laundering, but nothing for investigations. And I couldn't understand why. And so when the ACI kind of started, I think it was that same kind of principle that how do we bring the community of investigators together? How do we mentor them? How do we educate them? How do we support them? And that's what the ACI is about. So I actually was asked to join a webinar on good investigation guidelines. Then they asked me to kind of join their advisory board. Then they asked me to head up the advisory board. And now I'm Chief Strategy Officer. So I'm really humbled and privileged that they see some value in me and want me to bring me on. But I'm aligned with that message. Corporate investigations has been put to the wayside for too long. And corporate investigations are the heart of any kind of risk management. When something goes wrong, it is the investigator that tells you what and why and how. And they need to be given the true voice. And that's what the ACI is about, building up that skill set, that standard to do that.
When you say corporate investigations, what sort of investigations are you referring to?
Anything that requires investigation. So it's financial crime.
Okay.
And everything under that banner, whether it's fraud, money laundering, sanctions, tax, you name it. Regulatory.
Okay.
And with regulatory, sanctions falls into that as well. A whole range of FinCrime falls into that. But so does safety. So does health. So does environment, pollution. All those things fall under that as well. A plane has fallen out of the sky. Why? Why is a train crashed? Why? There are investigators who are investigating this. Who helps them? Who mentors them? Who supports them on that journey? The skill set is the same. I still need to get evidence. I still need to interview people. And I need to do it at a standard, at the highest level possible. Who speaks for them? So we also cover that. We cover investigators who do cyber. Information security investigations. Skill set is still the same. And then dignity at work matters. Bullying, harassment, victimization. That's something that's been ignored, that non-financial misconduct until recently. It's been often been just passed to HR that they can deal with it. And it's almost an insult to the person who suffered those issues to do that because you're not giving them a proper investigator. You're almost downplaying it. And so we want to be that voice as well. But in order to do all of that, there needs to be a standard. And that's what the ACI also did. We worked with the International Organization of Standardization. We got together. We did the very first ISO 37008, Internal Investigation of Organizations. And that was not easy. But it's the very first international guidance on how to do an investigation. Crazy that nothing like that existed before.
That is actually very true. Like, we do get professional accreditations, but it's not specific to an investigator. So another question with regards to investigations and accreditations is, if someone was to do the ACI accreditation today, is that internationally known now? And does that help them kind of continue on their career path as well?
Exactly what it's meant to be. I mean, the idea really is, what's that credibility? Some people don't like accreditations. For me, accreditations are very important because what is your credibility? When you're in that room and you say to someone, no, you can't do that. And they say to you, well, who are you to tell me no? You can sit there and say, oh, I was a police officer for 35 years. That's fine, but it doesn't mean anything.
Which is what most of us say.
That's great.
You're selling your background.
You're selling your background. But you're not selling who you are now. And why are you credible to do this over someone who didn't do 35 years in law enforcement, but who understands business processes extremely well and have equal value in that investigation process? So the accreditation kind of says to the world, I've gone through a body of learning written by experts. And now I'm accredited to do my job. That's my credibility. That's my standard. In addition to my 35 years as a law enforcement, now I'm the best person. And I very much work on the very simple premise. The right person needs to be in the right role, needs to be doing the right work in the right way at the right time. If one of those falls flat, you're going to have a problem. If you're doing an investigation, use that principle. You know, someone might be in the right role, did the wrong work, that's fraud, right? They've done something wrong. But also the person doing the job must align to that particular principle. And the right person is experience plus knowledge, plus education, plus skill set. Education is not necessarily degree. So the Certified Corporate Investigator Accreditation is extremely important for that purpose. Standard never existed before.
No.
Now it does. And that's vital for the community.
With regards to the officer that has 35 years experience, why would they want to take this accreditation? Because like you said, that's kind of what they go into the room with. But it's also that case of, if I was to take it and I didn't do well on that, would that mean that I am not as credible now?
I think you will have to sit down and say to yourself, what is the value add for me? Now, I've worked with law enforcement police officers with 30 years experience in banking. They did not know how to do the banking investigation when they had it on the desk. And I'm not being unfair to them. If it was internal fraud misconduct and they had to do the interviewing, get the evidence, amazing. Brilliant. But when I was in law enforcement, I would do a 60-page witness statement. There's no time to do a 60-page witness statement in the corporate sector. And no one wants to read a 60-page witness statement. And your in-house legal team will be crying, privilege, no words. And you have to then readjust how you do things. Similarly, an investigation in banking is about analytics. It's about money flows. It's about all that. That police officer with 35 years experience is probably just about figured out a pivot table. And now you're giving them complex analytics to look and review and coding and Python and the rest of it. They're not going to have that clue. Privilege in the corporate sector as opposed to privilege on the other end as law enforcement, two different beasts. So that's what the accreditation does. It really brings you up to speed on what is the position today in each of those modules. if you are a law enforcement officer with 35 years experience, most of those chapters, you'll fly through.
Flying through them.
We're not reinventing anything.
Yeah.
If you've been driving a car for 30 years and we're telling you, here's an electric car, you know,
it's still the same process, right?
The process is the same, but now there's just new things you need to consider that makes you more relevant to the market.
Yeah. The nuances, I guess.
And the thing hasn't been, no accreditation is written to fail anyone. And hopefully if it's structured correctly, people will go through, learn, and really prosper at the end of it, which is what we want. Yeah. Again, we're here to mentor, educate, and support. Yeah. And that's important.
I think the support part is very important because transitioning, especially between industries, but also between jobs and between positions, is very important. Sometimes it's a big leap. Sometimes it's a small mindset shift. And I think that part isn't provided as much. It's kind of seen as, you're ready. And like you said, if you've got a good investigating background, that's literally what you sell. And then it's deemed as, you should know what you're doing. So you've got all this experience, but sometimes keeping up to date with what is out there is equally as important. But also, I guess, if even for myself, if I was to take the ACI investigation course and to the accreditation, I would maybe find a skill set that I am lacking on. And then that also helps me get better as well. So then I know that there's a knowledge gap, and to make myself, 101% that would also be a good, way to think about it, instead of thinking as I've got this much experience and I know I've been an investigator all my life, so I know everything, because let's face it, you never know everything.
You don't know everything. You learn every day. I learn every day. Yeah. I did the accreditation. I was nervous when I took that exam. Yeah. Because I was like, if I fail, that's really embarrassing.
And it's yours.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. So, but you have to go through it, and you have to, and I learned things, Yeah. And also, it's a community. It's more than just an accreditation, though. It's a community. Because then if you do get into that situation and you say, who am I? I'm a certified corporate investigator. And by the way, there's 100,000 of us. Yeah. That means something. Suddenly people think you're actually part of a tribe that matters. More than that, though, as well, it's about benchmarking. It's about getting people together and saying, well, how are you doing it? Oh my God, you're having the same challenges as we are. Yeah. You're having the same problems as we are. You know, or actually, we're going to do it this way. And stakeholders will challenge and will push, and they don't like investigators because we uncover the truth they don't want. So they'll push and we'll turn around and say, no, this is benchmark. Yeah. Everyone's doing it this way.
I think that's really good, because I also find investigations in different sectors is different. So obviously the scrutiny I would have in public sector, especially when it comes to court cases, I know that even doing a production order at the Old Bailey would be scrutinized by the judge and the clerk and CPS, everyone involved, right? As well as my evidence. But sometimes in the private sector, you're kind of put within a different parameter, and if it doesn't meet the threshold of the loss amount or whatever it is, you can easily just close it with less notes, for example. So sometimes it changes with what sector you're in, what you're being asked to do, and also the parameters. So I think having a standard would help the whole FinCrime sector industry in a different way, put us all at the same level, instead of all of us having a different background and going according to what's being told today.
No, 100%. I mean, the ACI has 10 principles of investigation, which all investigators will know and, will follow, because they include things like being compliant with the laws of the land that you're investigating in. Yeah. And one of the ones that's my favorite, duty of care. Yeah. You have a duty of care to every single person involved in that investigation, whether they're a reporter or subject. And that also is linked to your risk acceptance of the organization. Because you're right, you've got to be pragmatic. You can't spend 6 months on a case which involves a £10 theft.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have to be pragmatic about it. You have to have that acceptance, that risk acceptance, because we don't have unlimited resources, despite what public sector think also.
Yeah.
So you have to have that. So yes, but as long as you follow those principles, as long as you're able to defend your position and also defend your credibility when challenged, then I think that puts you in a good place. And that's what we're hoping to do for the investigation community.
I'm interrupting this episode to remind you to stay safe online. Scams are everywhere, ready to take your hard-earned money. Please ensure that you do not share your passwords, do not click on unusual or unexpected links that come through your emails, text messages, and even WhatsApp, especially when they purport to be from your bank, card company, the government, your crypto exchange, and even family and friends. If you do fall victim to a scam, please report this to your local police as soon as possible. Please also report this to your bank, your card companies, and even your crypto exchange. Please stay safe online. Thank you, and let's go back to the episode. So ACI focuses on raising professional standards. How has this shaped or rather shifted your perspective with regards to professional standards as a overall, but also your personal standards when it comes to your work?
So for me, look, there's a lot of associations out there. There's a lot of trainers out there. They all do great jobs.
Yeah.
They do. They really impart a lot of good knowledge.
Yeah.
My journey with the ACI has made me realize that, I don't know everything. I'm constantly learning. I get into in our events, we don't sugarcoat things. We're quite in your face.
Okay.
And I often get people pulling me aside in the coffee break saying, I didn't agree with what you said. And I'm like,
Okay.
I'm good. Then let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
But for me, though, it's about improving your excellence. But the thing about standards is this. You can read the standards. You can learn the standards. Can you implement the standards? And that's always what I'm seeing where we fall flat. I had a conversation with someone who I thought was a risk specialist. Their title is risk specialist, but they didn't understand the difference between a risk owner and a control owner. And so for me, then I was like, well, how can you be a risk specialist if you didn't understand that? And then you kind of think, well, now I'm really worried about how that risk program has been implemented because these are the basics in my view. Yeah. But their understanding of risk owner was completely different to someone else's, and that then made me think, who taught you then this? And then it makes me think, well, are the standards there? So you need to be able to implement them and execute them and then see if they're successful. And that's the journey for me. That standards matter because, this is the standard, but how do you implement it? And I think that's why the accreditation matters to us because we can talk about principles of investigation, we talk about frameworks and the rest of it. But once you become accredited, you've gone through that journey of what good looks like. Yeah. Now you can actually be honest and look at your framework and say, is this good?
I think that will also cause such a different workplace conversation because like you're saying with regards to implementation, even if some people were to see a difference in standards, would they really be able to change anything in their workplace?
No. But I think, like we all know, anyone who's worked in the corporate sector knows it's incredibly difficult.
It is. Every sector is political, right?
There's political,
but it just has its own political obstacle. That's it.
Yeah. But I think you have to make your case.
Yeah.
I mean, I had an interesting conversation with in-house counsel, who said, don't put your concerns in writing. Because if there's a case, then we're in trouble. So don't say that these controls are ineffective. Okay. Or don't say that we need to change that framework.
Don't put it in writing.
Don't put it in writing.
You can say it.
Yeah, just tell us. But I'm like, no, because that's not going to get the point across. Yeah. I am going to write it. Yeah. And believe you me, I will, because I'm an investigator and I believe in facts and I want to Make sure those facts are known. You're a lawyer, so you're not interested in that aspect of it, and I apologize to lawyers. But, your goal is to protect the organization. So no wonder you're asking me not to do this.
Yeah.
But if you want to change something, you have to make it be very clear and very loud. This is a control gap.
Yeah.
That policy you have does not work.
Yeah.
That due diligence exercises you're doing really suck. You need to really be honest with this.
Different.
Yeah. Like why are we doing it this way? I don't understand. Why are HR doing investigations? I don't get it. You need to ask those questions, and I'm not scared to ask those questions.
Yeah.
I'm scared of losing my job, but I will raise the issues, because that's my job. My job is to say this investigation occurred because something went wrong. And why did that something go wrong? Well, our observations of this. So a recommendation here is that maybe you need to look into that and do your root cause and understand why it didn't happen. And if you don't fix it and it happens again, I'm going to remind you that I told you to fix it. And it's happened again.
Yeah.
And if the third time it happens, and now the Serious Fraud Office or the Department of Justice is coming in, then I'm going to be like, I told them.
Yeah.
Like
and
3
not just
times.
Once.
Yeah. And they had no idea, didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So don't look at me. And I think that conversation needs to be very real. And I'm sure in-house counsel, everyone was like, what is he saying? Abort. But I think it's very clear. That's the job of the investigator.
Yeah.
To tell those truths, and hopefully the company will listen and remediate.
Yeah.
Because it's in the interest of the shareholder. It's in the interest of the community at large. It's for the interest of the employees who work there, who want to be proud of working in that company. They're relying on us to make sure that those gaps are filled, which is why it frustrates me when I don't see investigations as the heart of every aspect of risk in a company. They're just seen as, put them over there. Yeah. They'll manage that.
They're investigators.
Yeah,
put them in the dark room.
Do all that stuff. Yeah. No, we need to be at the heart of it, my friends. The world is changing,
Yeah, it is. So you mentioned, obviously, lawyers, protect the business. There's also a notion out there that HR is only there to protect the business and not their employees. What's your opinion on that?
So HR is probably going to hate me now. Some of my best friends are HR, so I'll just caveat
Not
that.
towards them.
No, but HR are essential partners to the investigation process.
Yeah.
And if you have that partnership mapped and you have them engaged, it's a great partnership. The problem comes when they're asked to investigate. And in my eyes, that's a huge problem because there's a massive conflict.
Yeah.
And the conflict is a function that hires, rewards, and fires at the request of management cannot be independent when there's an issue about that management. There's a huge conflict. Where is their loyalty? Their loyalty is to management. And they'll tell you, no, but it is. And that's a reality. And here's another thing. They also hold the mechanism to exit an employee out of the organization. Here's another thing. People think that HR are the facilitators of retaliation. They say, because you can't retaliate against an employee without HR on board. So what checks and balances are HR doing to stop the retaliation? You can't say we have zero tolerance for retaliation. And by the way, HR is doing all the investigations. Well, hold on, they're the ones who are firing us. So what are you saying here? They're the ones who manage our rewards.
If you have an issue with someone, they're on the table as well, right?
So
the mediating.
The mediating, right? So on that basis, I can't see it. How it can be seen as unreasonable for me to say that HR should not be doing investigations. I said this at a conference, and someone from a pretty big company, HR investigator, again pulled me aside and
didn't like what you said.
How dare you? I'm a very good investigator. And I was like, you probably are. Move over to the investigations team. We'll love to have you. Don't be in HR. And I have a real strong view of this. Now, I know that a lot of people train HR to do investigations. I know that there are some amazing investigators who are in HR. My problem is not with them. My problem is with the structure. The structure is wrong. And if you understand basic science of risk, which I mentioned before, risk owner and control owner. I mean, the risk owner, I could be the risk owner for fraud. Hey, business, this is what fraud is. This is very simplistic. But hey, business, this is what fraud is. Now, I've got 4 different business units. Each business unit will have a control owner. So I've told you what fraud is, but business 1, you're the control owner to stop fraud happening in your business. Business 2, you're the control owner to stop fraud happening in your business. I'm here to help you what fraud is. Now you figure out how to stop it from coming into your business.
Yeah.
HR are the risk owner for bullying, harassment, victimization, for culture. Their job is to make sure that bullying, harassment, sexual misconduct, racial misconduct does not happen. They're the control owner in business as well. So the risk owner telling all the businesses, they're the control owner. The HR business partners for each business, they're the control owners. Hey, business, none of that nonsense in the factory floor, please. Yeah. But if there's a breach of the control and there's a breach of the risk, they can't mark their own homework.
No,
An independent function has to investigate. But they've always been allowed to mark their own homework. And I don't understand why, other than management never saw non-financial misconduct as important. They didn't see it as important. Pass it to HR. It's not for us investigators, we're so important. Pass it to HR. True. Well, the tide is changing.
Yeah.
And
unless it's financially involved,
unless it's money, unless it's dollars, I don't care about the people. Right? Send it to them. Yeah. And so for me, no, the people are the important part. The numbers, fine, that's important. But if an employee is not safe in the workplace, and if an employee logs in the morning and by the end of the day has been groped or has been injured or has been mentally abused, that's a problem. I'm going to investigate that. I'm going to look into that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pass it off to someone else.
No.
Who's controlling the risk, but obviously did a bad job.
Yeah.
I'm going to find out how that happened. And that's really what corporate investigation is about. And for me, bring it back in.
Yeah.
Bring it back in. But again, HR are really valuable partners. If done right, we all should be collaborating.
Yeah.
And HR are part of that collaboration process. Just please don't do investigations. Bit controversial, but.
I think I agree with that. No, and it is true because they do sift out the candidates first, especially nowadays. If I think about my sector being in crypto, you will always have an initial interview for, half an hour with a HR representative, and then they'll say whether you fit in with the culture or not. Then you can go on to the next stage. But if they are then investigating, I'm not sure whether they would have an unbiased view and whether you are correct in saying whether they are in the right, place to, because sometimes, especially in the private sector, you can refer a candidate to join a team. And then where does HR come into play with that, especially if you're doing an investigation? Sometimes I think it is, what I've always learned in investigations is that it's good to be unbiased and objective. Can you really do that in a HR perspective when you are hiring and firing, reviewing the contract as well of the employee? And then it's like, are we within a period where, maybe I can save what corporate is saying and get rid of the employee, Because sometimes actually, even if someone is harassed at work, they might not want to bring that forward because they just think, it's going to become office talk, firstly. Secondly, they are scared. Yeah, HR want to take care of the company. And imagine if those news broke out. Would they really have a fair trial?
I mean, I'm sure there are some HR people right now who are pulling their hair out and want to punch me in the face. But I think the reality is, and hopefully not, because that's against HR values. But the reality is, though, is that it's a simple science thing. It's a simple science. Don't take it personally, folks. And I'm an investigator, just the facts, ma'am. There's a show called Dragnet, and there was the phrase, just the facts, ma'am. But I think the reality is that just on an evidence basis, just on simple science of risk, you shouldn't be doing it. But you should be helping us do it. And we'll make sure it's independent. And you're right. If these non-financial misconduct is very difficult to substantiate.
Yes.
Very difficult to substantiate because it's not like fraud. Money was here, now it's there. Oh, we'll just track it over there. Oh, you're a naughty person.
And you're kind of following the money.
You find the money.
More than
it's straightforward, right?
Following someone's
But
experience.
Here, this is it. If someone is being abusive to someone, manipulative to someone, playing games with someone mentally, if they're doing that over a prolonged period of time, they're not going to leave evidence.
Yeah.
Right? These are games. It's very hard, though, to make that case beyond the balance of probabilities, which is the best you can do. you then have to have an independent person dealing with it. Because if HR are doing it and say, no, we don't believe you, and now because we don't believe you, we think you're a troublemaker, and your boss thinks you're a troublemaker, so now you're on a performance improvement plan. Oh, 2 months later, see you later. And that's what happens. And that's retaliation, right? And so at least as an independent party, we might say, I'm sorry, we haven't been able to substantiate it. But there's something here that is a problem. And there's enough to make us believe that there is some mediation work required. Something needs to be done. Now, if the reporter comes back and says, Ash, I've just been fired. I've got something to go back to HR and say, what the hell? What's going on here, right? I'm the independent voice. I may not achieve the result that the reporter wanted, but at least I can record that something has happened. And that's the whole point of retaliation. Retaliation, zero tolerance. I hate the term zero tolerance. I don't know what it means. Because zero tolerance is zero.
Means you're going to get out
basically
if you do anything against what they're saying, right?
but if you look at HR sanctions, for example, against someone, they don't fire everyone. They'll do, okay, maybe there's counselling, or maybe there's dock their bonus, or but so is that zero tolerance then? Because to me, zero tolerance might mean sacking them. So actually, no, it's like 25% tolerance. I don't know, what are we doing here? So I always have a problem with that phrase. But at least if there's an independent party involved, there's some check or balance, and that's all that we want. But these are my views, and I hope my HR team doesn't fire me.
No, these are just your views. I'm joking. So in your opinion, what are the best workplace ethics for a good working environment?
Very difficult question to answer that one, because every company is different. Every industry is different. If you're in banking, you're different type of employees to, say, mining or oil and gas or manufacturing. Those on the office floor might be different to those in the professional setting. But I think the basics, really, transparency with your team, with your staff, consultations where possible. I mean, you can't consult on everything, but making sure they're engaged. A certain level of trust for your employees, definitely. So like, let's say remote working and coming back to the office, a lot of people don't want to come back to the office. But actually coming back to the office, though, for a couple of days a week is actually good to build team dynamics. Having those conversations over the desk. And I know some people sometimes say, we're just talking about Game of Thrones. It's a waste of time. Well, actually, that conversation of Game of Thrones sometimes helps you maybe with that work thing you're talking about. Or sometimes that last sentence in our discussion is a work-related sentence that actually helps you. And also then it builds that greater rapport with your colleagues. So you can pull them aside sometimes and say, look, I've got a problem. Can you help me out there? And those team dynamics are important. And that trust within employees really helps build the culture of the place you're working. But I'll give you an example of the differences of workforce. So I was chatting to someone, they're manufacturing based, they've got an operation kind of center in a particular country, and most of the workers there don't speak English. Some of them don't even write, but it's manual labor. It's and they needed to improve the culture. They needed to, really bring them on board with safer ways of working, but also the reporting culture. Speak up. How do we get them to speak up when they see something wrong? So they did something very simple. They just put a whiteboard on all the different factories, and they said, every time you see something wrong, there's a wire where there shouldn't be one. Someone left a ladder where there shouldn't be a ladder. Someone is smoking outside a TNT truck, right? Every time you see something like that, report it to us in this particular place. And then we'll put a little line on the board. And at the end of the week, the site that has the most lines will get a prize. And the prize was nothing spectacular, like little bits of chocolates. Or they might get some tea bags, special nice tea bags or something, like a small little voucher. It's token gifts. But it didn't become about the gifts. It became a bragging right. Because at the end of the week, we won. We raised the most concerns. We made the company safe. And then it became a bragging thing. And then each side started reporting loads of stuff. In fact, the team that were dealing with the incident management were like, please stop because there's too much stuff coming in now.
We can't handle it.
We can't handle it anymore. Stop it. But the point is, though, is that the culture improved everywhere with such a very simple initiative.
Yeah.
Understanding who these people are, understanding what they can give to the company, which they were not able to give before because they were not given laptops and there wasn't internet presence. That meant a lot of them had very basic smartphones and not going to go on that smartphone on our reporting channel.
No.
But they did this and that helped the business. And I think little things like that, just thinking outside the box, that really helps.
Yeah.
But
like
engaging your employee.
Someone to speak up.
Yeah. And just engaging with them. Like say, that factory worker in the middle of nowhere does not care about white collar crime in New York.
No.
Right?
That's
they
true.
just don't care. Why are you saying, what
They
is
just
this?
want to do their work.
They just want to do their work. But if you tell them this is going to affect your local community, and you engage them that way, and so it's about engagement, transparency, engagement, and that's half the battle. But we have to also be real. No government, no religious book, no thought master or mistress or whatever has stopped crime.
No.
It never will.
No.
So we just have to accept that there will be a criminal element.
Yeah. And then that's always going to be there.
That's always going to be there.
That's
and then we'll always be there. Yeah.
What mistakes taught you the most in your investigative career?
I've constantly made mistakes, and so you just learn as you go along and you evolve. I think the biggest mistake I made was forgetting that in every investigation there's a human being involved, and you can sometimes forget about that. That this thing that someone has reported means the world to them.
Okay.
It's not just about controls. It's not just about numbers. Actually, they stood up and did something pretty spectacular to report it to you. But I remember I had this one. I was in law enforcement working a case, and one of the victims of this particular case had lost significant sums of money. I asked them to help and provide some documentation, and then I forgot about it because I was asking that for about 50 other people, And then about 6 months go by, and I'm looking what's been presented, and I was like, they haven't given me anything. And I was really irritated. I was really like, there's a lot of stress going on, a lot of, how it is in the public sector, no resources, you're doing like so much. And so, I sent an email, didn't get any response. Then I left this really kind of annoying, I've been trying to contact you. You haven't responded to me. It was my belief that you wanted us to take this forward. If you don't want to take this forward, then please let me know and I won't contact you ever again, kind of thing. I didn't get a response to that. I'm like, so then I ring the landline, and the individual's wife picks up the phone. And I'm like, I've been trying to contact your husband. He's been ignoring me, and we have this very important case. And she, I'm really sorry. Just please come whenever you want and take the data. I'm sorry, my husband killed himself. And I was like, pause. I'm like, sorry, what? And he committed suicide because he was so ashamed of falling victim to this particular scam that, and he was an elderly gentleman and he just couldn't take it and he killed himself. But she was amazing. She was like, no, I will still help you. I've just been lost in that. And I was like, I felt awful because I forgot there are human beings involved in these matters. So I think that's important. You can't forget that element. That once you do that, then then no point doing it. Yeah.
No, it's true. You always have to, and even if sometimes, work can sometimes say this amount is not enough for us to take forward, you still have to remember that there is a victim at that other side of it.
The other side, And it doesn't need to be that big either, little things. I was doing not-for-profit investigations, people taking grants for initiatives, and I did an investigation of one. And this grant was going to disadvantaged children in rural Ireland, rural Northern Ireland. And so there was a fraud, mismanagement going on. Managed to investigate it. We stopped it, reversed it, and then we kicked off the grant again. So they were doing a little kind of event, and they called me, invited me over. And I was going over for some other stuff. So I thought I'll just pop over and, show face. And it was just these children who were just coming up and doing speeches and doing recitals. And this woman comes up to me And she says to me, "Oh, you're the fraud guy." And I was like, well,
Fraud
okay,
guy.
whatever, okay then, yeah.
That's a cool title.
That's a nice title. I'll take that. And she said, the kid who just gave a speech, he had a terrible speech impediment. He couldn't even say a sentence without stuttering.
Yeah.
He lost his self-esteem. His confidence went. But because of this funding, he's able to stand up and speak for 30 seconds
so
without
nice.
stuttering. And I just want to thank you for helping us to to do that. And so for me, I was like, crying. I was like, terrible. But the point is, though, is it doesn't have to be this big crime. It doesn't have to be this big thing. Just remember that people's lives are involved. And that little kid to go out there and talk for 30 seconds meant a lot to him, for his mother, for his friends who are, hoping that he can do it. Just little things. This is what we do the job for, So just don't forget the human.
How has your investigative career helped you lead and mentor others?
So as you know, I'm shy and retiring. And I don't.
You're very shy.
No, for me, I once I was comfortable to impart the knowledge that I get, and I still learn. I still speak to people and even like folk who know analytics more than I do, right? How the hell am I doing this Power BI dashboard? Can you tell me? But I mean, so for me, my mentoring was very important, and I've been lucky to mentor about 6 people and see them grow and see them develop, and people from different backgrounds as well, different ages. So I've had the opportunity to do it. I love it. And my mentoring style is really just to engage them on that journey, right?
Yeah.
Find out what exactly do they want, though. That's the key. What do you want mentoring is?
Yeah.
If you want to be mentored to get another job, that's not really what mentoring is. No. But if you're looking just to improve your skill set, to be a better investigator, to add more value, then I can help you on that journey. It's your journey, and my truth may not be your truth. That's yours.
That's very
but I can maybe stir you with the experiences I've had, so you don't make the mistakes I made, and hopefully get to a point where you too can pay it forward and start mentoring people. So that's really the goal for me.
I like that, especially when you're mentoring or, imparting knowledge to pay forward. Was it, did you ever have a mentor that, inspired you to be where you are today?
No, but I've been lucky to work with people, managers who have taught me well, and who have helped me, and who've been honest with me, but the best ones have been able to do it with good humor, right? And that's always been important to me, to build that trust with them. And so whether I was my first job working in a shoe shop, and the manager there, and then going into menswear while I was at uni, and actually men's, women, and kids wear, and the manager there would impart knowledge on how to do good sales and things. But everything, I've been lucky to work with them. So I've had many mentors. I just wouldn't call them mentors. They've just been great teachers, and I've been willing to learn.
I think that's the difference. Like, you're a good student, and I think you don't just learn from the job that you want. You don't just learn from a specific circle as well. Like, you can learn from a retail job. You can learn from someone that you meet, from friends, networking. It just depends. And I think keeping open to that idea is very important. I think having a good mentor is important, but I don't think you just need to depend on one person either. Like, having little, nuggets of wisdom from everyone definitely helps. I
think so. And just having a good circle of friends who ground you. Like, my friends are rude as hell and will keep me grounded and stop me from having an ego. And that's important as well. But I think, again, you were talking about the public to private shift. When you've done public service, that stays with you.
Yes.
That you are here to serve. And even in the corporate setting, I've got no skin in the game. I really don't care if the company's making these massive million. I do. It pays my salary. But for me, what I care is that people feel safe. When they work with that business, and investors feel safe, and the community feels safe. And that may sound a bit cheesy, but that's what matters. And so once you understand that understands your values, then you're okay. You're good to go. And then you're constantly learning and For me, every day, if I don't learn something or if I don't laugh, then that's a really bad day.
I agree.
And that's important. So just at the end of the day, just sit down and say, what did I learn today? I learned that I should not have that donut because that was a bad choice, right? But you learn something and it might make you giggle as well. So you've done 2 in 1.
Yeah.
But you just have that conversation with yourself.
So Ashu, outside of work, you do something very fun, which is the True Crime Film Club. Tell us more.
So I was invited to a book club and I was like, yeah, let's do this. And then I thought, I've got to read this book. And that's like a 300-page book.
Okay.
And I've got a week to do it. I don't have time to do this. So then I thought, it'd be really cool if we did a movie instead. And then I thought, well, let's do a true crime film club. So I set up this true crime film club. And so some folks said, yeah, we'll do this. And I was like, great.
Yeah.
And I set up the first meeting and only 3 people turned up. There's 4 of us in total. And we went to a pub and I thought they would see the movie and then we'd talk about it. They came in and said, so where are we watching the movie?
Oh.
And I said, I thought we were supposed to be, we're going to watch it and then we're going to talk about it. And they said, Ash, that's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
And I said, you're right, it is a terrible idea. So now what we did then, I realized that we need to show the movie. So I've been very humbled that we've got lots of amazing people who offer up their boardrooms and then we will show the movie. We'll get a true crime,
so cool.
true crime film, a documentary. We'll theme it to Valentine's Day or to Halloween or to whatever where possible. And then we all get together. We'll sit there. We'll eat popcorn. We'll have snacks. We'll watch the documentary. We'll laugh. We'll cry. We'll throw our hands and like, what? The guy's an idiot.
Yeah.
But we'll do all that. And then after the documentary, we'll talk about it. We'll tie it into our experiences and the job and what learnings we can have. And then we go to the pub. But it's a really good way of just bringing people together.
I agree. And it's so out there because most of us probably have a good true crime documentary algorithm on Netflix.
Yeah.
So why not watch it together and, just socialize after.
Yeah.
That's such a good idea.
It's great. After a hard day of work, you just then turn up and just watch a show and eat unhealthy snacks. And
you can actually speak to someone about it.
Yeah, but this is it.
Shout at the screen as well.
Yeah, and this is what we do. Like sometimes we'll see this investigator. We saw one documentary, an investigation team were showing us the interview that they did.
Yeah.
And we were headbutting the table. We're like, you don't do interviews like this. What are you, crazy? But it's great because then it informed us on how we had a conversation about what makes a good interviewer and what are the things that we're looking at. So it's about having fun. It's about learning at the same time. And we all get to watch the show. And I think that's great. It's just building the community, which is our goal at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to coming to the next one.
Yeah.
And we're getting to the last segment of this episode. And this part is where you get to choose your own question, but you'll have to choose an asset first. So, Ashu, do you choose cash, crypto, or commodities?
So it's tricky, right? Because I'm an investigator, so all of these are relevant to me.
Yeah.
And I work in the commodity sector. But let's go cash.
Cash?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're going cash, your question is, what do you think will be the most positive development in investigations in the next 5 years?
The most positive development will be the certified corporate investigator accreditation, the growth of it, the growth of the community.
Yeah.
But I think also just a reevaluation of investigation skill set and what is an investigator with AI. Because AI is that piece now that everyone's talking about. Everyone's talking about it. But, I mentioned before about all three, cash, transactions will be cash, transactions will be crypto, and then commodities with money laundering is quite easily done. But geopolitically, it's a big a risk as well for a whole range of people. Investigators get involved in all of those areas. But I think the biggest positive will be definitely AI. Yeah. It also comes with risk. So it's resilience, but it also comes with risk. But hopefully we have some great trained accredited investigators out there who can tackle this with the ACI, Association of Corporate Investigators, in case no one really got that.
In case no one understood.
Yeah, I said that one. But I think that is really going to be the push, just elevating that standard. I'm quite excited about it. Elevating the standard, getting the profession greater eyes, and then really putting our money where our mouth is, which is why I chose cash, because I keep on saying, give the investigators a voice and we'll get to the heart of this problem.
Yeah.
If 5 years down the line we have more cases than we've messed up.
Do you think you'll be adopting a ACI course that will include AI?
Of course.
Yeah?
Of course.
I think a lot of people will be interested in that.
Yeah, no, of course.
It's the latest thing that everyone needs to upskill on, but there's just not enough out there to understand how to use AI for compliance, for investigations, for maybe easing some of the mundane parts.
Yeah, but I think AI is potentially a big problem in a certain sense. It has great rewards and it's going to make life really make you efficient. That's certainly true. But I think the role of the subject matter expert will be put at risk because we're going to get a lot of subject matter pretenders. Those people who can now go into AI, tell me everything about bribery and corruption, and then just go to conferences and speak about it and just do all that stuff and say buzzwords. And now I'm an expert. No, you're a pretender. You haven't done the work. How do you know I haven't done the work? Well, you don't have experience plus accreditation. So I think that's the key. That's a big challenge, I think.
Yeah.
And that is a real problem because those subject matter pretenders will be your insider risk when it comes to fraud. And when it comes to all those little challenges that you have, whether it's non-financial misconduct or other financial, if you rely on the subject matter pretender, they will be the con man, con woman of the future. So that is where we have to be more resilient.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Ashu, I'm going to pass you my book and we're getting to the end of our episode, but you get to write a question for the next guest.
Oh, wow.
So I'll pass you this.
My goodness, thank you very much.
And to all my audience, thank you for staying with us today. I hope you learnt something new. I hope you really enjoyed the episode with Ashu. And I hope you understood that ACI stands for Associated Corporate Investigators.
Association of Corporate Investigators.
Association of Corporate Investigators. And let me know if you'll be taking the course, if you're interested in taking the course. And if you want a bit more material on that, I can happily send a comment on this episode. I'll pin it to my YouTube channel. Feel free to look at it, sign up. And if anyone wants to join in on the True Crime Film Club as well, let us know and we'll send you an invite. Perfect. Thank you. And I'll see you again for the next time for the next episode. Leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Leave a comment and let me know what else you want me to discuss. And subscribe to stay tuned for more.